I'm about to do it. I'm going to go on another anti-Linux rant, and if you have a problem with that, all you need to know is I'm hopped up on jungle juice. So here's the problem. This is my $99 Asus E210 MA laptop, and this is Beavis and Butthead. Now, what's wrong with Beavis and Butthead? It's a show from the 90s. It's a show that I happen to love quite a bit, and if you think that's stupid and it makes me juvenile in my 40s, just know that Patrick Stewart, the captain of the Starship Enterprise, also thinks that Beavis and Butthead has some sort of hidden meaning, that Beavis and Butthead is the greatest show ever. Patrick Stewart is actually a huge fan of Beavis and Butthead. But here's the problem. It was difficult enough to get one folder in Linux Mint, which uses Cinnamon and, Nemo and all that. But it's basically a GNOME clone if you really want to get down to brass tacks. Phones always ring whenever I'm in the middle of a video. But, excuse me, the problem is that this is widescreen, and Beavis and Butthead is not widescreen. Beavis and Butthead is a 4x3 show. It's from Classic TV, CRT TV. When I say CRT, I mean that kind of CRT. That kind of CRT? No, that kind of CRT. It is 4x3, but it has a widescreen ratio. Whoever did this video did it wrong. This stuff right here needs to be squeezed. But it's not squeezed. Now, what can I do about that? Well, let's take a quick look. What do we have here? We have celluloid. This right here is celluloid. The stupid, weird, GNOME, Cinnamon, whatever, default video player. And what can you do in celluloid? Well, I figured out the key combinations, but the problem is I can't really do anything. Celluloid has very little in the way of actual options. You can switch tracks. Playlist, there really isn't much you can do. Now, here's the problem. If I was on Windows, I could use Media Player Classic Home Cinema, MPCHC, which I know a lot of weirdos in the free software community somehow worship Videoland VLC player, whatever. I don't like VLC. Its interface sucks. MPCHC rules, and here's why. In MPCHC, you can right-click the picture, and you can get all kinds of cool stuff going on. There is basically a right-click menu if you right-click on the picture that accesses almost every control that you can do to whatever it is that you're currently watching. You can change tracks, you can change parameters for your renderers, your filters, whatever. But, crucially, and this is what's missing from celluloid, I can full screen it, but I can't change the ratio because there's no way to do it. In MPCHC, all I have to do is take this, and if I have a number pad, and on this, if I hit function, I do in fact have embedded number pad functionality, but if I have a number pad, I can just hit 5 or whatever, 4, and it will shrink this, but I can do it in the menu even if I don't have a number pad. And it will take this and it will shrink it horizontally so that the aspect ratio on that is corrected to match this. But I can't do that on Linux because that is not possible with this player. It doesn't have any functionality with which to do any kind of pan and scan or, make this bigger, smaller, make this bigger, smaller. You can't do any of that because the player doesn't support it. And this is my general problem with a lot of free software. No matter what free software player I pick, a lot of them are not going to have that. Now, maybe VLC has that functionality buried somewhere. I don't know. I've actually not used VLC on Linux. But MPCHC is far superior to any player on Linux. And what bothers me is that I shouldn't have to have inferior players on Linux when MPCHC is a totally open source free project, just like all the Linux players, but all the Linux players are trash by comparison. That is a major problem for me. I am pretty unhappy about this. And this is why I don't switch to Linux for my main stuff. This is why I will stay on Windows 10 forever as long as I can because I don't like that so many things are so much more difficult on Linux systems than they are on Windows systems. Even though Windows is going in a bad direction and I don't like it, unfortunately, the software superiority is not questionable to me. Now, there will always be someone in the comments that says, "Ooh, well, I run Linux all the time, and I don't have a problem with any of this. You just do herp. Here's a bunch of like a friggin' 50-line shell script somewhere that'll do the job for you, and just run this command. And here's a bunch of commands that you can run at a command line console, or here's a bunch of expert configuration tweaks you can make to a text file." But if I go to Windows and run mpchc, I can hit the number, was it 4 on the number pad? And it will shrink the horizontal axis of the video frame, and that's it. I don't have to do all that crap. And that's the problem on Linux. All of the people that do this stuff are like, oh, everybody is willing to do all that crap, so that's just what I'll do. No one ever fixes anything to where you don't have to do all that crap. To where you can do things like that, like shrink the video in the axis, whatever, change the aspect ratio without any kind of like expert configuration bullshit. I just want to open Beavis and Butthead and fix an error in the source file on the fly while I watch it, and then when I'm done watching it, I don't have to care anymore. I can do that on Windows. I can't do it on Linux. Fix that, and I'll stop complaining. That's it.